Hi, have you ever wondered why children are getting so angry these days? Hi, my name is Prerna and I'm a behavior coach. And I want to talk about anger because it seems like more and more children are getting super angry these days. Have you noticed that? Like really extreme behaviors, lots of screaming, lots of hitting, lots of just this emotional outburst that seems like anger or fury, even in some cases. So I want to talk about my last coaching session in a school that I was at. And when I walked in, this little 4-year-old, let's just call him Jake for right now. I changed names, so don't go looking for these children. Let's just call him Jake. And what Jake was doing was he's standing behind a bookshelf and he's kicking the bookshelf. He's screaming. He's got this angry look on and he's kicking it with all his might. The rest of the kids are all at the table and he's behind a bookshelf and he's grunting, he's screaming, he's crying, he's kicking, like he is enraged. All of this is happening. And so I sit down next to him on the carpet, keeping a safe distance because I don't know if, I might get hurt because he's so triggered. And slowly I start talking to him. He's not ready to talk to me yet, but we warm up to it. And I start talking about my dogs and he's slowly interested. And then he kind of is doing like this, sideways. And I can see that he's calming down a little bit because, sometimes actions tell us that children are calming down, even if they don't have the words. So when he's fully calmed down, I ask him, what happened? And he goes to tell me that he can't do the activity or he wants to do the activity that everybody else is doing. So I say, okay, let's go to the table. And the actual activity is a blank piece of paper and the teacher has different animals cut out. Like, she has um, tiger, zebra, camel, all kinds of animals. And he picks a tiger. And the activity is to draw a jungle around your favorite animal. And then you create your own animal. So he gets there and you can see that, he wants to do it, but he doesn't know how to do it. So he doesn't know where to begin. So he's feeling a bit overwhelmed. So I break it down for him. I say, okay, you have a piece of paper, I'll have a piece of paper, we'll draw the tiger together. So he gets excited. He picks up his crayon, but again, he doesn't know how to go forward. So now he's starting to get a little bit frustrated that I don't know where to begin. So he keeps looking at the picture. He wants to do it exactly right. So you can tell he wants it to be perfect, but he doesn't know where to begin. So he's overwhelmed. There's perfectionism coming in and he starts to get a little bit frustrated. So I'm noticing all this and I say to him, well, does a tiger have a square face or a circle face? Just, to get him engaged. And he says, a circle. I said, okay, let's start with a circle. So breaking it down, right, for him. So he draws a circle, I draw a circle. And then I keep noticing that, he's kind of getting a little bit overwhelmed, not being able to copy the tiger like he wants it to be. So I say, okay, let's put the tiger away. You make our own. We don't need to look at a picture. But he's still not sure and he's still not confident. So he starts to get a little anxious. So he gets up and he starts looking at the tiger picture on the wall because he needs some kind of way to make this happen because he really wants it to look like a tiger. So we go through all of this and then I'm making mine, he's making his, and another little girl walks by and she makes a comment on mine. Oh, yours looks like a kitty cat. And I said, well, that's not a kitty cat, that's my tiger. And this is what Jake does. He covers his. He doesn't want her to see his. So he's kind of embarrassed. He's kind of feeling a little anxious and a little fearful that he'll get judged on it. So he covers it. It's fascinating to watch all this happening, right? And so when the little girl leaves, I say to him, Jake, do you know that you have a very smart brain? And he pauses and he looks at me and he's like, I do? And I'm like, wow. Nobody's ever talked to him about the brain. And we really should talk to our children about the brain. So I said, yes, you do. It's a very smart brain. You could tell your brain how to do things. You could talk to your brain and it'll listen to you. And he's kind of thinking about this and he's trying to process it. And then he says, like SpongeBob? And I said, well, SpongeBob is a cartoon. You're a real boy and you have a smart brain. And because I could tell behind the anger was embarrassment, helplessness, fear, anxiety, frustration, overwhelm, even some humiliation. He wasn't quite sure if he could do it. He knew everybody else could do it faster than him, and perfectionism. So think about it. 8 different emotions behind something that looks like anger. And all we see is anger. And we keep talking about the anger. Don't kick, don't scream, don't do this. We just keep correcting the actual behavior, but we don't look underneath, right? So when I start talking to him about his brain, I say to him, you could tell your brain, I haven't learned it yet, right? So it allows him to have some grace, because I could notice that he was getting embarrassed. I could notice that the emotion of perfectionism was freezing him and he couldn't do it. So giving children a context, giving children a way to make sense of what's happening in their brain is powerful. And watching his reaction was really impactful for me, because I had not realized that he had never had the conversation about the brain. And so I said, yeah, you could tell your brain, I haven't learned it yet. Say it after me. So that became the mantra, right? So we have to give children something to repeat, something to help them when they get frozen, because he was overwhelmed, he was frozen. And so I said, yeah, say that, I haven't learned it yet. And the other part, the second part of the mantra was, it doesn't have to be perfect. So say that to yourself, Jake, it doesn't have to be perfect, because we want them to take safe risks. We want them to take on challenges without feeling overwhelmed or embarrassed or humiliated or anxious or nervous because they can't do it just right. So that was what we did in the moment, and it seemed to calm him down. At the debrief, I said to the teacher, I think we should not do any more large groups with him, because he gets really worked up because he can't do it as fast as the other kids. And so that makes him even more anxious. And you can't work when your brain is frozen and it's overwhelmed, right? Think about that. He's dealing with all of these emotions. How is he going to stay focused? The only thing he can do is have an outburst. So what I gave the practical strategies for the teacher was, start doing small groups, maybe 1 or 2 kids at a time. So he doesn't have the need to be competitive. He doesn't have the need to show up at this level where he's functioning at this level. And he's super intelligent. He's so smart, but he goes into an overwhelmed brain. He just doesn't know where to begin. He doesn't know where to start. And so all of this outburst happens. And the second thing I said to her was, so one was small groups, and the second was giving him a little bit of a out, right? So recognizing that he's struggling, recognizing that he may need a bit more time, and allowing him to just say, Jake, you can come back to it later on. And she was kind of feeling like, but that's going to give, lenience to others, and others are not going to want to do the home classwork, and they're going to take advantage of this. But think about that. You're spending more time dealing with his pushbacks. You're spending more time battling all the outbursts than you would if you just recognize that he's going through all these emotional turbulences and he just needs somebody to understand. Also very powerful in this moment is, would you like a hug? Even though he's kicking and screaming, sometimes a hug just melts. So, think about children in your classroom or in your home. If they're putting this much pressure on themselves, and we want the brain to be learning brain, not a reacting brain, we have to understand that the big outward emotion is just on the surface. It's like an iceberg. There's a whole lot underneath. And if you can start to become an investigator, start to become curious and sit in the wondering space, what is happening underneath? And what are you trying to tell me? Because all behavior has meaning, and all behavior is a form of communication. And so I think the only way to help children navigate the space of extreme outbursts is to come from an understanding, compassionate, empathetic approach. But otherwise, you're just going to be spinning your wheels. I do have some good books, because I love giving suggestions of ideal books for a situation. So reading books that let children know that having these strong emotions is normal. Roaring Matt Riley is a great one to dealing with anger. I Can Stay Calm. Once you've talked to them about the brain, then you can start talking about Yeah, the next time you get really upset, you can tell your brain, I can stay calm. I can have a plan. Don't give up, right? When children get frustrated, irritated, or when the emotion of perfectionism coming up, then the first thing is, I can, it's too much, it's too hard. So having these conversations are powerful. Next time I can make a plan. Next time I get really angry, or next time I can't do an assignment. Next time when this happens, I can have a plan. I could get some help. I could take some deep breaths. I can count to 5. All of this, children don't know it naturally. We have to help them learn it. I love this one. This was one of my granddaughter's favorite ones. Sometimes you're a bumbaloo. I think just the word bumbaloo, she would like to say that. And look, in this picture, it talks about how her red face would become and how angry she would become. And it's so good for children to recognize that these are normal emotions. I just haven't learned how to deal with them. And this grown-up understands me. And that'll build the trust, and that'll build the calm that the children need, right? So when they don't have the calm, they're depending on us to bring the calm. So download your calm, don't upload their stress, right? I love this one too. Stomposaurus. What can you do when you get angry? What can you do when you get upset? If you like this, make sure you subscribe, share it with other teachers and parents who might benefit. I would appreciate that. And leave me a note, leave me a message, if you're wondering about something, or if this was helpful, I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for now. Until next time, bye.